The DOJ is now looking at criminal charges for 4 mayors of 4 different sanctuary cities. Because, the idea here is you can't actually have these sanctuary cities. It doesn't really work now, does it? Because if you are a country, you have to have a certain expectation in terms of your border, in terms of laws. And guess what? Ladies and gentlemen, the federal government controls that. I've said all along, if there's one thing that they control, it is the borders. And so they have the right to demand to these mayors that they play by the actual federal law. And if they don't, then they can hold them accountable. And that's where we are right now. In fact, there was a hearing on this very thing. I want to get into some of the statements from Ana Paulina Luna, the representative of Florida, who, by the way, is leading the task force into the declassification of all kinds of material. But she's calling now on Pam Bondi to actually press criminal charges. We'll go to her in a moment, but first the fireworks, right? Let's start on the fireworks, because you had Ayanna Pressley out of Massachusetts, the representative, along with James Comer, who was running this hearing. By the way, because he's running the hearing, he has the ability and the authority to say, okay, this is what we're going to allow in it. This is what I want in it. And if you start taking us off on some tangent that's irrelevant to the matter at hand, then I have the right to say, we're going to throw that out. We're not going to put it in. So keep this in mind as you hear her say she wants to add certain kinds of evidence to the record. Let's watch.
Without objection, so ordered. We've put it in the record.
I have an internet.
You have what?
Mr. Chair, can I have several articles. I need to enter them. Let me just go ahead with what the articles are. What they speak to.
What's the next article?
Let me proceed. Data from Texas shows that U.S.-born Americans commit more rape and murder than immigrants.
Listen, this trend of you all trying to get thrown out of committee so you can get on MSNBC is going to end. We're not going to put up with it.
This is my procedural right as a member of this committee
you can go with Mr. Frost and Mr. Green.
I am reclaiming my time.
That's what you want. No. Ms. Presley, I have been very accommodating to you. Mr. Sobrano,
and I take particular umbrage as a survivor of sexual violence. I will enter into the record. This is my right. Thank you.
No. It is Mr. Subramaniam.
Mr. Chair?
No, you know the process of unanimous consent. You are not recognized.
I have several articles to enter into the record.
Mr. Subramaniam, if you don't go, we're going to recognize Mr. Timmons.
No, Ayanna Pressley, no, you can't actually put these things into the record. She's quite something. I've showed you guys this sound before, so I'm not going to play it again just now, but she has come out and said, we want to work with people who are willing to restrict the speech of U.S. citizens. It's like, really? I mean, you're going full-on commie? I guess so. Anyway, take a look here at what the actual rules are. I looked this up. So the chair, that would be James Comer in this situation, has the discretion over what is entered in the record. And while members of Congress often submit news articles and things that they want to include for the record hearings, the chair can object if the materials are deemed irrelevant or not germane to the topic at hand. And his point is, look, we're trying to deal with the border situation. So you going on and on about, okay, well, we have statistics that show that immigrants are not actually committing as many crimes. It's completely irrelevant because it has nothing to do one or the other, okay? And Tom Homan has made this very, very clear. Our borders are, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is on Fox.
Congressman keeps saying they commit less crime than Americans. Who cares? Every crime committed by an illegal alien, preventative, not supposed to be here. It doesn't matter who does more. These are preventable crimes if we secure the border. And the border is more secure now than it ever has been because I'm working with the greatest president in my lifetime who has illegal immigration down 97%. He did that in 3 weeks. President Biden could have done it. He couldn't do it in 4 years. President done it in 3 weeks. We got a safer border. And because we got a safer border, 97% less people are coming.
Yeah, that's a good thing, right? So, in other words, none of this has relation, one thing to another. In other words, if you're going to say, okay, well, it doesn't even matter. I mean, you could say, hey, they've never, ever committed a crime. They're perfectly fine. It's irrelevant because the point is they're not supposed to be here. So, by the way, when they do commit a crime, then you do have a much larger larger problem. We do know that 650,000 plus illegals here in the country are known to have committed violent crimes. In some cases, you have, according to ICE, more than 50,000 homicides, as well as massive numbers of assaults. I mean, that's not okay, right? So the mayors, going back to the mayors, we're talking Denver, we're talking Chicago, we're talking Boston, Michelle Wu out of Boston, my goodness, and we're talking New York. So here's Anna Paulina Luna, the representative from Florida, saying, look, you guys, I'm sorry, but time's up.
After this line of questioning, it's very clear that these policies that you have all implicated are active and alive and well in your cities, are in direct violation with U.S. Title 8 Code subsection 1324, and it is a federal offense. But you all speak about a broken immigration system, and yet here you guys are aiding and abetting in that entire process. I want to be very clear about something. Open border policies, which is something that you guys are talking about, hurts people on both sides, meaning the people that are coming here illegally and then American citizens as well. I do not think you guys are bad people, but I think that you are ideologically misled, which is why, unfortunately, based on your responses, I'm all going to be criminally referring you to the Department of Justice for investigation. And as soon as I leave here, these will be going over to Pam Bondi. I'm not doing that in an effort to bully you guys, but I do believe that your policies are hurting the American people, and you can make that known with the evidence that you can present to the Department of Justice. But if you guys continue doing what you're doing, you're not going to help anyone. You're going to hurt more people, and that's exactly why I'm tired of it. The American people are tired of it. And Chairman, I yield my time.
So Anna Paulina Luna is doing something that needs to be done. And by the way, I spoke with people on her team who tell me she did actually refer all that to Pam Bondi, and Pam Bondi is looking at it as we speak. And I'm hearing that charges indeed will be filed. So, you know, and what's significant here is that they're criminal charges. Okay, that's a criminal referral. So I don't know, are you talking jail time? I mean, if you're going to be completely impeding the job of the federal officers, the ICE officers that are trying to make these arrests, if you're in the way of that as mayor and you're just flaunting it, then do you wind up in jail? It's an issue, right? So they're facing this. And by the way, it's not going to be just Boston and Denver and Chicago. It's going to be many, many, many more cities. And think about what it may mean even for Letitia James, our favorite Letitia James, because Letitia is already being charged because of her willingness to completely ignore federal law and come up with her own set of laws that are totally in violation of what the government is trying to do and what this president is trying to do. So you got to ask, what does this mean for Letitia? If they start going after the mayors, are they going to put Letitia James behind bars? Is this going to be a criminal prosecution? Frankly, I mean, you know how I feel about this. But just if you're joining for the very first time, make sure you subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff, give a comment, and know that I have no respect for one Letitia James. I think she is one of the most abominable, most viciously political attorneys I have ever seen. I don't think she's a very good attorney, but I think she's extraordinarily viciously political. And we cannot have people like that in our system because it just threatens everything. I mean, who the heck wants to go into politics, for goodness sakes, if that's what they're going to do to you? And all she wanted to do, you know, all she wanted to do was put him behind bars and bankrupt him so that he could not become the next president of the United States of America. I mean, she told us over and over and over again, right?
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today.
Yeah. Okay. So this means you do need to actually, Pam, I'm just going to give you some girl-to-girl advice here. You do need to haul her, you know what, right into court because she is so flagrantly violating the law. And that is not okay. And the same with Kathy Hochul. But you know, there's some bad blood, shall we say, when it comes to Letitia, because she did go after the president for something that he never ever should have gone after for. I mean, it was so bizarre. And I'm perhaps most offended of all of the cases, just as a business reporter and someone who cares so passionately about preserving capitalism and the success of this great meritocracy we have. You cannot get in between an individual bank and an individual client and somehow decide that his property in Florida, one Mar-a-Lago, is worth only $18 million, okay? All right, like, Letitia, I'll tell you, you may be political, you're not good at law, and you're not good at math, and you're certainly not very good at property valuation. Anyway, Pam's going after her, and I got to tell you, like, Homan is right with everything he's saying. Let's listen again to a little excerpt of his interview there just last night on Fox.
President Trump's saving lives, and they can't stand it because it's a political difference. It's not a realistic difference. It's about saving lives. That's what this country's about. Support law enforcement. Why is law enforcement all of a sudden, Tom Homan, we're the bad guys who we enforce the law, but the ones who break the law, the ones that rape?
You know, that's a good question. So, you know, you get bad people out there doing bad things, and somehow AOC, Letitia James, the ladies on The View, and a few others can only go after Tom. Like, suddenly Tom is the problem. I've known Tom a long time, by the way. He's a wonderful man. He is salt of the earth, and he is passionately, you know, involved with and caring about making sure we do secure the border. This is what he wants to see done.
You know, I'll wear this as a badge of honor. If I get and live in their heads rent-free every day, that's kind of cool, and I'm loving it, and I'm coming.
He's coming. He's getting them. You know what? Watch out. All of you, watch out. So, Letitia, watch out. I think that, you know, the reality is Letitia James is going to actually face bigger problems than she's even possibly anticipating right now. You know, of course, that Pam Bondi cut off the funding. We've talked about that ad nauseum. And you know, of course, that there was a judge that said, well, you know, maybe you can't really do that. So Letitia James is like, oh, he can't. You know, we filed this and it's a temporary thing. And so Donald Trump is ignoring it. He's like, yeah, well, we decided to cut off the funding and I run the executive branch and nothing's stopping me. I mean, eventually, theoretically, if it got all the way to the Supreme Court, then you would have an issue. But in the meantime, what's going down? Well, she filed another motion just last Friday. Like, she keeps filing these motions, because New York's got some problems. How are they going to really function without all that extra money coming in from the feds? So she's struggling. She's furious, but she has nowhere to go here, nowhere to go. And believe me, Pam Bondi has no use for this woman. I mean, you can go back to some of the protests on campus. By the way, horrible situation. I don't know if you saw at Barnum College, which is associated with Columbia University, my own alma mater. Today, just horrible stuff. And, you know, you have these kids all riled up on college campuses all across America. And instead of protecting the students that needed protecting, Letitia was out still going after Trump. And you had law enforcement there in New York not caring about these students that were making the lives of the Jewish students really pretty hellish. I mean, it's just bonkers that we're living in this weird, twisted, upside-down world where you just throw out law and order. And believe me, this is not lost on one Pam.
I think in New York, to specifically talk about New York and to talk about Attorney General Letitia James, instead of sitting in a courtroom going after Donald Trump on bogus civil fraud cases, she should be out on the streets of New York with all of law enforcement. She's the chief law enforcement officer in New York. She should be out there condemning this, stopping this, calling for the arrest of these people who are vandalizing police cars. There are cameras all over New York City. They can catch these people. Look what Mayor Giuliani did to clean up New York, Manhattan, when he was mayor. She could be out there in the entire state and at all these college campuses saying, if you don't stop this, we will arrest you and we will charge you. That's exactly where I would be. And that's where she should be. And it makes me so mad because all of these Jewish students are at peril right now. Just what you said, you know, I don't know if these students who are praising Gaza if it's just ignorance on their part,
right?
What they're doing if they don't understand. But if you have the chief law enforcement officer, meaning Tish James, out there condemning it, saying this has got to stop, we've got to protect our Jewish students as well as the Muslim students, say that, then it would stop. But nothing is happening to stop this. And people are,
nothing was happening because I think she's kind of okay with it. I mean, I think it's her view, right? I mean, you've seen this among so many of these woke academics. And her only mission at that point in time, and still, was to fight Donald Trump. That's all she could actually get through her head. It's like living, breathing, sleeping. I mean, again, we've seen the tape. Too male, too pale, too stale, right?
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, yes. We know he's crazy. Yes. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. Yes. We know he's out of control. Yes. We know he's losing it. Yes. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Thank you.
Well, I wonder how that line's going to go over in prison. I mean, normally I wouldn't be so itching to see somebody prosecuted for that, but I got to tell you, this woman deserves it, every single bit of it. And now these mayors that are flaunting, Eric Adams is a little bit different, and I think that he's going to have a little bit more leadway because he's actively trying to make a difference. Of course, they're all over him for it in New York City, but you look at Michelle, they're in Massachusetts, in Boston, you look at what's going on in Denver. I mean, they've had ICE raids that got called in, according to Homan. That's because he believes the FBI has tipped them off. I mean, you cannot have any kind of system if we're all fighting each other this way. So what they have to do, I mean, it's been 12 years, right, of Democrats. You had actually make it 16 because Donald Trump didn't have a chance in HELL when he first came in there. They were just out to get him, right, from day one. Comey and company. Everybody was out to get him. Incidentally, he just signed an executive order moments ago telling Perkins Coie, that's the law firm that represented Hillary Clinton, that they couldn't have any White House security clearances anymore. Perkins Coie is the law firm that went out and purchased that nifty little report from Fusion GPS. They're trying to wash it so that it doesn't go directly back to Hillary, but they were representing her campaign. They went out and got the Fusion GPS report. Fusion GPS went and hired Christopher Steele. Christopher Steele delivered all that nonsense, the so-called Russian dirty dossier that launched all the craziness to begin with. Okay, that was the Russia thing, which incidentally, you can't help but hear them go back to over and over and over again. One Jasmine Crockett, I believe the headline was she's calling Trump Putin's HO. I'll leave it at that. I mean, they're going right back there, okay? Well, we don't need a repeat of that. And we're not going to have a repeat of that because you know what? Things have changed and all of these people are in violation of the law. And we're talking criminal prosecution here. Criminal prosecution, including for one AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yeah, and she's nervous. You know that. She's nervous. That's why she's writing Pam letters and saying, am I next? Am I next? Very, very nervous. Before I get to that, I'm celebrating an anniversary of sorts. That's 1 year at 76research.com. We started, I should say, 76research.com exactly 1 year ago this week. Take a look. Amazing portfolio performance. If you're interested in any of this, you can get the 76 report. Use code word dollar. My gift to you, dollar, DOLLAR, 76 report. You can get it at 76research.com or 76report.com. Or if you want to get the portfolios, I mean, this is where the value add is. 10 to 15 stocks in each one. Take a look at those. We just put a note out, by the way, for 76 Report on one of our picks, which we're disclosing. It's actually up 8%, and we actually think it can benefit from some of the tariff situation. So take a look at that, 76portfolios.com, or go to 76research.com if you want to use code word dollar. But really and truly, I can't encourage you enough to start investing today, and let us help you however we can in terms of this research, which is, you know what, really unrivaled. Totally unrivaled. Anyway, let me get back to the news here. That's just a little plug from me, because it has been a year and I'm excited, so you're going to hear me talk about it a lot.